I'm Chris, and this is Flat Tank Journey. Welcome back to restoring a round tank. Mine's a 25 model, and I've been chipping away. You saw the bike and you saw the bits and pieces. And last week I've been working on the guards and trying to get them into some sort of presentable shape. And I've been slugging away again this week. This week's video, which is pretty much done, happened at the same time as I was working on the guards, and I backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. One of the great flaws of these mid-20s bikes is the fuel cap, in my opinion. It's got a clip, and this is a fuel cap, and the fuel and the oil are different, only in that they have an engraving on the top saying it's an oil cap, and the fuel cap doesn't appear to have an engraving on the one I've got. So they're riveted together. There's a cap, a plate, the piece that holds everything to the cap on, this one's been flattened, and then a tiny little clip that is also riveted on that a chain attaches to, that attaches it to the bike. And then when you twist the cap, it hooks on a couple of posts inside the filler neck, and that's what locks it down. Now, inevitably, the rivets give, and the cap falls to pieces. And I don't know what people did then. They got new ones, or they tried to fix them, and you can see on this one, there's a broken ear on this plate. And the plates were very thin and very small, and the rivet pulled through because you're constantly putting pressure on it. And I suppose this was a concept prior to having a threaded filler cap. And I don't really know why they did it. Anyway, then the caps go missing, or you only buy a string of broken ones. So I needed to overcome the need to, I think they're 70 or 80 euros for a reproduction cap. You can buy them, but it's still a reproduction cap. And if you buy an original cap, it generally needs fixed. It needs new clips, or you need to get several caps and then rivet it back together, and then it needs re-nickeled, and then it doesn't look great, which was this one. So I decided to build a couple of caps. That's this week's video. Hope you like it. Cheers. I'm shouting in the shed without a microphone. I suspect this video will be shot over a series of days or weeks, or you may never see the light of day. I want to talk about the dreaded fuel cap and the oil cap on a mid to late 20s BSA. Now that's the oil cap, and it's got the chain and it's got the clips underneath, and I had it re-nickeled, and it's in mint condition. Really, really lovely. And you can buy reproductions. I think they're 70 or 80 euros. Doesn't matter. They're more than I want to spend. I have a broken one, also oil, and the clips are broken off the back, and it's not in super condition, but the cap is there. And I have one that I had nickeled and is in really poor condition, and they did an ordinary job of nickeling it, and they actually busted it. They busted the clip, and then they tried to, anyway, doesn't matter. It's not great. So I've got the wedge tank and I've got the round tank, and they both need the same sort of cap. So what to do? I have one pair in theory, or a pair and a broken one. A pair that has a broken one. The oil and the fuel, and then I have an oil. But I don't have another fuel. So, I don't know, does anybody remember when I bought the Torpedo, and that it came with repop fuel caps that were made out of Welsh plugs, and there's a knurled edge on it, and there's a thread cut inside it. Got me to thinking about how big is a fuel cap. And it turns out that it's like 54.75 millimeters wide. Weirdly, you can buy a Welsh plug that is 2 1/8 inches wide. Brass. And it is an almost perfect fit. It's a little bit deeper than the fuel cap, and that's okay. I think I could mount it in the lathe, and I could spin, cut it down a bit if I wanted to. I don't know whether I want to or not. I could mount it and knurl the edge of it, and maybe I will. I have mounted it once and drilled an air hole in the middle because they need an air hole. So the plan is to make a pair of fuel caps from 2 brass Welsh plugs. So what's inside a fuel cap? Inside the fuel cap, maybe I'll bring you over. That'll be better. Let's have a look on the bench. I've got the fan going in the background too. So if you're hearing that humming noise, it's the fan. So here's my really good fuel cap, or oil cap, and you can see underneath the chain attaches to inside the fuel tank, so you're not meant to lose them, but you do. Here's my one that's been blown apart, and here's what was inside it. So inside a fuel cap, there's a piece of cork, or packer, and then that plate, and then that clip. There's the edge broken off that clip, and then that piece on the top. Now all of that gets riveted on, and in theory that sounds really simple. In practice, well, I don't know how to deal with it. So, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I decided that I'd have a go. So I've drilled a hole for air, and I have marked where those little things go. So my next job will be to drill a hole for them. I've also roughly cut out the plate that's got a little curve to it, that must provide a little bit of spring to it or something, or as it's riveted it gets spring. So I decided I needed spring steel. Where do you get spring steel from? Well, you cut up a handsaw, an old handsaw that wasn't very good. You carefully cut that with an angle grinder, and because you're trying to repair one and make two, you cut out 3. And no, they're not perfect circles, and you know what? It's inside a fuel cap. I can live with that. I'm not going to get antsy about it. Will it be okay? Well, probably. Can't do both things at once. I can't line that up and talk to you. I'm going to go on and try and make this little piece, and I don't even know how, but I'm going to have a go. So bear with me. I'm going to cut some of this steel out of that, and then I'm going to try bending it. Well, failure and success, which is good, I suppose. Here's the spring steel from the saw blade. Now the first one, as I attempted to bend it cold, just snapped in half. Now this is bigger than the genuine clip because I needed room to move. The second one, I heated it and bent it, and it was fine. I thought, oh, this is a winner. Went to drill it and it snapped in half. The third one, I gave up. The fourth one, well, the fourth one is made out of the lid of a toolbox that I hacked out and bent. Nice and thin, similar. Now, again, it's bigger than the original, but it fits. It's got a hole and 2 holes, and they're in the right place. Now, it needs a solid tidy up, I suppose, and it's still blue, and I wouldn't say this is the final version, that's for sure. But it is a version that I can live with for now as I try to make it better. And I emphasise, though, I'm going to try to make it better. There's my 3 efforts. Now, the big blue one, because that's what colour the toolbox was, he works, and so do the other 2. Now, I got skinnier and skinnier as I went, and could I cut them down to the 3rd one? Well, yeah, I probably could. And that's the original. And I suppose, in reality, the original is about 3/5 the size of that one. And 3/5 of that one and just over half of the other. I don't know whether to sweat about it or not. I think I can remake this first one again and do a better job. I think it's okay, but I can certainly knock all the blue off and end up with these little jobbies that fit neatly into there, and the holes pretty much line up. Which brings me to this ugly piece. Again, the flaw in them from original is how close the hole is to the edge. And you can see it's super close. And so I deliberately left a lot more meat. Gonna have to plan this out. I don't know whether to flatten this one on the anvil and make a template and sacrifice it so that I've got something to work with. I might even think about that overnight. Well, it's really close to working. There it is. There are 2 rivets sitting up there with the clip that holds the chain. So if I pull that off, and then here is my attempt at making that. And it's about right. I did sacrifice the one I had that was broken. Now you can see I've left the ears really big. There's no value to making the ears a lot smaller. There's actually no value to having that thing tiny. So it doesn't look as good as an original, but boy, you know, if it works. I emphasise if it works. This is the lid of a toolbox. Is it strong enough to hold the cap on? I don't know. I've got to get some cork material because I think that's cork underneath there. And I'll get some of that tomorrow, or a gasket of some description, and see if I can get all this together. Maybe. More to come. Fuel caps. Things are going well-ish. So, original. Another original. Gave it a bit of a clean up, took the rivets out and salvaged the clip off it. So it's not too bad. Needs the back cleaned out. But could be a lot worse, hey? Here's my Welsh plugs. Breather hole drilled in the middle. This one might be a hair off being in centre, and holes for the clips. But they look all right. On the edge, I hope it turns out. I knurled the edge to match the edge. So really, they look bigger. They look good. They look better. They're still a bit tall, and I'm questioning whether I should shorten them, but I don't think so. I'm not sure how to fixture them, to shave a bit off them, and I don't know that it matters. They're reproduction caps. They'll always be reproduction caps. They'll always, in fact, be Welsh plugs that I converted. I did make some cork washers. Now, I cut the centre out to let the rivet go through and to let the breather hole breathe. And I think that's probably the right thing to do. I don't
know of many people getting locks, but I do know that you can create a vacuum and then you don't get fuel. Now, the difficult bit is riveting. So I tried numerous times. I've burnt my hand, I've burnt a cork gasket, trying to anneal a rivet and get it hot enough to bend, but all to no avail. I failed every time. Now, these are actually alloy rivets or some sort of alloy, an aluminium. I'm going to buy some brass rivets. I also think the rivet is a tiny bit small for the hole size that I've got. So I'm going to buy a slightly bigger rivet and go with it from there. Coming back, I've just picked up my original fuel cap, or the fuel cap I had. Now, I made a plate to put the rivet onto to try and rivet that was round, and I've actually left some marks in the top of this. So I'm a little bit disappointed with that, but it wasn't a great cap to begin with. Currently, I think I would get this plate cap nickeled and use 2 oil caps on the wedge tank and 2 repop caps on the round tank. This has now turned into a bit of a shit show, this one, and wasn't great before I started trying to re-rivet, and it's less great now. The trouble is getting all of this to hold together whilst you bang a rivet in, and I'm just losing the battle. So I've actually araldited, super strength araldited these together so that that's one less thing to worry about. I had rivets in them. As soon as the glue's tacked up a bit, I've pulled the rivets out. So I'll have to sort out how to rivet that into there. And that sounds really simple, but it isn't quite as simple as you want it to be. I also think that the wings of this might be slightly too wide. When I look at these wings, they've got a gap down the edge, and I don't have as big a gap. So perhaps I've got the wings slightly wide. I think I might trim those before I rivet them in. And of course, some of my wings are inconsistent and some of the bends are inconsistent. And so, you know, having a look at them in the cap has been advantageous to me. So how's it going? Well, I don't know. It's going. I'm getting there. It's just not going as quickly as I want it to. But hey, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
I've elected to reshoot this bit of footage because I've been to my other workshop and collected my camera gear, and now I'm back. And I feel like this job deserves the best footage and the best sound that I can create. So I did it. I actually made a fuel cap out of a Welsh plug. It worked, bizarrely. I got up to the point where I was trying to rivet it, and it was giving me a lot of trouble, a real lot of trouble. So I made brass rivets. I was going to order them, and I found I had a bit of brass stock. That's now eluding me. I think I've thrown it in the scrap bin under the bench. I made some 5mm shafted brass rivets with a 1/4 head, and they pinned over really, really easily. And they fit. Amazingly, not simply, they take a bit of a fettle. So come down the bench and I'll show you a close-up and show you what they look like and talk you through what I think are the issues and why they fail, and yeah, how long will they last? Don't know. Come and have a look. I'm excited, I think.
Well, there you go. That's it on the wedge tank. And it's got a grip. Now, I had to give that a little fettle to get it to fit. And they do need a little bit of fettling to get them to fit properly. So here's kind of what I started with. And there's what I ended with, but nonetheless, here's what I started with. I started with a broken cap. And I've got a spare plate. And I've got a spare clip here somewhere that's now just going to elude me. But it doesn't matter. They can be made. So this is a genuine oil cap. And it has that font and the British Small Arms logo in the middle. But on the back, I've remade all of that. So, as we explained earlier in the video, there's a cork gasket, then there's a round plate, this thing, then there's the bayonet piece or the clip piece, and then there's the piece that holds this chain. And this is not original chain, this is clock chain, nickel plated clock chain. And I've just looped that through and it fits. And then, you know, it looks good, it's ready to be nickel plated. So here is a copy. And do they look similar? Yeah, they do. They really do. I'm really well pleased. The original, well, the rivets might be a tiny bit further apart. They might be a tiny bit more bulbous, rounder, more spherical if you like. But gee, a blind man would like to see it. I think the knurling on the edge certainly adds something to the job and is reminiscent of the original. This one's the same inside. It just fits. Let me get the round tank and I will fit the caps to it and we can have a look at it.
Let's see if this works out. So this is an original and it should fit just fine. And I know it does because I've put it on and off a gazillion times. And there it goes. Just tightens up. The strength of the tighten up is all dictated by how tight you have these clips down. But if they're down too far, they won't hook on the little spigots that are inside. But here goes. So, and it's tight. It's a quarter turn and it's tight. And they look good. To me, they look good. They both look okay. I'm probably going to leave it like that. Originally, I thought I'd use 2 copies on the one tank and 2 originals on the other tank. But now I think, well, the oil cap belongs on the oil tank and the fuel cap, well, it can stay blank and they're both copies. I think they look okay and it looks very much like the fuel cap that come off it. Very much. It's a harder fit on the wedge tank because the wedge tank has very thick paint around the filler neck. And it's something I must be conscious of. I believe this is 0.4 or 0.5 of a millimetre smaller inside than the original cap. So the paint just took a little bit of fettling to get that one to fit. But you know what? They work. So what have I got into them? I've got $13 each for the Welsh plugs, 26 bucks. I've got $7 for the cork gasket material. And, you know, you buy it in a sheet and I used a tiny bit of it. I've also got $7 in the chain, the clock chain. I bought it from the hardware store and I used, you know, I don't know, a tiny bit of it, like 300 mil of it. And it comes in a 2.5 metre length for $7. But let's say 26, 7 and 7 is 40. They owe me $20 each. I'm really, really, really happy. So, you know, maybe that's 13 or 14 euros. Maybe it's 10 or 11 pounds. They've worked out really well. How long will they last? I don't know. Like all of them, they put stress on the rivets. Every time you open and close them, they're stressing the rivets and they're bending that piece. I suppose now that I know how, I could constantly replace them. But I don't want to. if I'm honest. I want them to stay on there and live on there. But I think they're just a flawed design. Oh, that's this week's video. It was a really, really fun project for me. I got to use my lathe, the metal lathe. I got to hot rivet, or not hot rivet, I got to rivet, solid rivets. And I got to really, really, really think and improvise. And the best part, I suppose, is it damn well worked. So, you know, I'm pretty pleased about it, and I'm happy with my effort. It took 2 or 3 hours a day for 3 or 4 days. I could make one again probably in 45 minutes, but it took me a long time to nut it out and to look for the issues. Biggest issue now will be, how thick will the paint be on the filler neck? Can I get them to consistently fit every time? Anyway, there it is. Petrol caps out of Welsh plugs. If you like my video, hey, can you hit the like button or share it with your mates or tell someone about it? If you really like my video, say g'day. Love to hear from people all over the world. England and New Zealand and people in Australia. It's super. In the meantime, keep slugging away. Have a good one.